Hi, my name is Scott Heinerichs. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Sports Medicine. In that department, I teach in our athletic training education program, which is an undergraduate program. I also serve on the university as the faculty associate for teaching, learning, and assessment. And in that role, I help to provide professional development opportunities for faculty around teaching and learning issues, and also oversee academic program level student learning assessment throughout campus. So the flipped classroom is mainly an instructional strategy that professors can utilize in a blended or hybrid type course. So in general, when I describe the flipped classroom, many times in the traditional classroom, our students are taught via lecture and there is not left time for active learning type strategies. And there may be some active learning type strategies throughout a course, but overall, in the flipped classroom, we really flip the classroom on its head, meaning we take the lecturing component and we put that online in a virtual context where the instructor can then lecture the content to the students, which allows the different learners to be met. So slower learners are able to rewind, learners that are able to grasp the material more quickly can fast forward without disrupting the classroom environment. And then when the students come back to the face-to-face classroom, the instructor's then there to help them facilitate active learning, so to apply the content that was taught in the lecture, so that the students can leave then with the content not only knowing it from a knowledge perspective, but then from an application, evaluation, and synthesis perspective. So a couple active learning strategies that I use in my classroom are, I first start my active learning class with clicker questions. So the clicker questions serve as a good way to reinforce the content that was taught prior to the face-to-face classroom, so when the students were hearing that lecture. And it's a good way then to dispel any myths based upon the feedback you receive from the clickers. So after clicker questions, another active learning is a think, pair, share exercise. So in the think, pair, share exercise, I give my students a scenario, and based on that scenario, they're put into pairs, and they're then told to apply the material that was taught via the lecture in more of a practical context. And then they will then get up and present that in about 5-minute time frame to the rest of the class to demonstrate that application of the course content.
Cool.
Right. That's a good question. So to ensure that students come to class prepared, I do some small stakes assessments, which means I take some questions from the lecture and ask them, or an article that corresponds with the lecture, ask them to read that and type up their responses and ask them to bring that to class. And then at the beginning of class, I ask them to take out that piece of paper and I quickly peruse the room and to ensure that it was done. I don't really look at it for accuracy, but to ensure it was done. And that's my one way to ensure it's done. And it's small stakes, meaning there's a small percentage of their final grade that's aligned with that. So the flipped classroom is a relatively new technique, and some professors may say, well, I flip my class all the time because I do active learning, and that's definitely true. But what the flip does, it makes you more conscious and deliberate in your approach, and the research that's out there right now, a lot of it is indirect, meaning there's a lot of student perception and teacher perception, and instructor perception, saying overwhelmingly that the students really like it. And when we think about learning, it makes sense, because when students can do things, they're going to retain it for a longer periods of time rather than just listening. So there's a lot of indirect research that's out there that is supporting the flip. There is some direct research that's out there, but it's hard to come by in various disciplines. Myself, do I want to say this now when we talk about my direct research?
Sure, yes, go ahead.
this past semester, what I did in my class that I flipped is me and my colleague that team teacher course, I flipped my content. She did not flip her content, and she taught traditionally just straight lecture. She engaged the students as well. And then what we did was we looked at our exams and we rewrote our exams to align with Bloom so they were equal footing for each question. And then over the course of the semester, we ran our stats on all of our exams, and we have some direct research that indicated statistical significance that the flipped content the students did better on than the traditional content. So that's an example of direct research that supports the flipped classroom. In addition to that, we did a student perception survey that supported the students really liked it.
Great. All right.